So, what's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. Now, today's YouTube channel is going to be very different because today, no, I'm not doing makeup. Today, no, I'm not going to be doing no fake ass tutorials. But today is going to be a very different YouTube video. So, before we get into the video, I'm going to need y'all to subscribe, like, and leave a comment on my channel just for you to join the cookie gang. Now, I need more cookies coming into the cookie gang. And of course, who doesn't want to touch the cookie jar, which is the Cookie Gang University. So I'm going to need this channel to grow. And I'm going to try to do everything in my power to always post different types of videos for you guys. But let's get straight into this video today, because today I'm very excited for the video that we are doing today. So, today's video is going to be very different. One, because I've never done videos like this. And two, because I want to be a little bit different. Okay? Now, Cookie's channel is going to be about makeup, drama, and a lot of you don't know that I'm into true crime. Now, I'm very excited for this video because I love crime stories. Anything about crime, I love. I don't know if that's like, I don't know. It's like something about me that I just love true crime stories. Now, what I did, I went up and I looked up a couple of stories that happen in real life. And these are true crime stories that happen here in the USA. So the first video, the first story that we're going to read about, this supposedly happened in Philadelphia, PA. And this story is called The Boy in the Box. So, as you guys can see, I'm actually reading all of this information off of my laptop. No, I did not have any time to study about no stories or nothing like that. So we're just going to go straight into the video. And we're going to read what this says here. Now it says, in February 1957, a college student stumbled upon the remains of a young boy in the woods of Philadelphia, reported his gruesome discovery to the police. The boy was found beaten and laid to rest inside an old basement box. Bassinet box. I'm sorry. His identity was unknown. Now, to a lot of you people, I know a lot of people get very sentimental when it's about kids and children. So please, don't leave nasty comments on my YouTube channel. I'm just really into true crime. So I'm just, reading whatever popped up out of the main ones that are here. But please, viewers' discretion is advised. Like, please, there's gruesome stuff that I'm going to be saying. Very horrific stories. Very, stuff that, that you don't really want to hear. And, I just want you guys to cope with me. Okay, so moving on with the story. It supposedly says here that several people came forward with information relating to the case. But police were not able to verify anyone's testimony. One woman named Martha claimed that her abusive mother brought the boy under their roof. He was subjected to physical and sexual abuse. Now that is just crazy. Like, I don't even know if I can continue with this story. What made the police take interest in Martha's story was her knowledge of details that had not been released to the public. She also claimed that shortly before the boy was beaten to death, he ate baked beans which carbonated the autopsy. She also claimed that he was battered before his death. Oh my God. Which matched the coroner's finding of pruned fingers. Pruned fingers. Though Martha's testimony seemed to match the evidence, her substantial history of mental illness made her an unreliable witness. Now, that's just freaking sick. And for a person, not even a person, but also a person, but you being a woman, it doesn't matter if you have kids or not, but just you being a woman, for you to do something like that to an innocent child is like crazy, like really crazy. It says another lead came from a physician who accurately described a foster home near where the boy had been found, without ever having seen it. Remington Bristow, an employee at the examiner's office, followed the physic's directions to the foster house inside. He discovered a basement matching the description of the bassinet box the boy was found in. He also found blankets similar to the one that the boy was wrapped around the boy's body. Because there was no real incriminating evidence against the foster parents, Bristow's findings were dismissed as well. 62 years later, the case of the boy in the box has gone cold. Facial recognition technology has provided mock images of what the boy might have looked like alive, but no one has ever found to claim him. DNA and dental testing have also been attempted, with no success thus far. The identity of the boy in the box remains unknown till this day. That was very, chilling to read. I do have 3 daughters of my own, and I was also in the foster care situation, and that I will talk about in another story. But to have someone that you think will care for you and love you and just, literally beat you and sexually rape you to death, and you just being an innocent child not knowing how to defend yourself, is just freaking sad. Like, it's very sad. So we're going to move on to the next story. The next story is based on the Icebox murders. Now, in 1965, Fred and Edwina Rogers were living in Houston along with their grown son Charles. Now, the family mostly kept to themselves in their quiet neighborhood, especially given Charles' reclusive and antisocial behavior. In fact, many neighbors were not even aware that Charles lived at the home with his parents, because he left the house each day before dawn and didn't return until well after nightfall. When a family member hadn't heard from the Rogers in several days, he called the Houston police for a welfare check on his elderly aunt and uncle. The patrolmen were unable to locate Fred and Edwina, but they noticed food sitting on the dining table. They opened the fridge and noticed numerous packages of meat neatly stacked atop one another. Then they noticed 2 human heads in the vegetable bin. Additional officers arrived on the stomach-turning scene and slowly removed the packages full of dismembered body parts from the fridge. The remains were that Fred and Edwina Rogers. The police deduced that Edwina had been brutally beaten and shot, while Fred suffered forceful trauma to his head. His eyes had been gouged out and his genitals removed. The couple's innards had been flushed down the toilet. Charles was nowhere to be found. Naturally, Charles was the prime suspect in this horrific crime. However, he seemed to have vanished off of the face of the earth. Though the police were able to collect circumstances of certain pieces of evidence against him, Charles Rogers was never found. Wow. Charles, are you behind me? Get the fuck away. That was just crazy. I needed to laugh a little bit because I was kind of like, I'm a little bit screwed. I ain't even gonna lie. Our next story is about Dorothy Jane Scott. Now, in the early 1980s, Dorothy Jane Scott began receiving threatening phone calls at work. She was the single mother of a toddler who didn't think much of the calls at first, until one night when the sinister voice over the phone told her to look outside. A single dead rose was lying on the windshield of her car. The stalker who had gotten a hold of her number would isolate between professing his love for her and threatening bodily harm. Dorothy mentioned to several family members and friends that the voice over the phone sounded familiar. But she couldn't quite place the pieces of who it was. She never got a chance to actually find out until one night at a staff meeting, Dorothy noticed one of her co-workers looked very ill. She and another colleague drove the man to a nearby hospital. When the doctors had declared and said he had a nasty spider bite and needed a prescription. While the two co-workers were waiting for the prescription to be filled, Dorothy went out to the parking lot to get her car. It was the last time she was seen alive. Her co-workers testified that she had never returned back. They went out to meet her in the parking lot, but at that moment they saw her car was speeding away. So they assumed there was an emergency she had to get to. Maybe her son. Dorothy never returned home to her toddler son, nor did anyone hear from her again. 4 years later, charconated bones were found at a construction site, adding another layer of mystery to the case. In fact, that a set of dog bones was found right next to her remains. Though people on the internet are still discussing the case today, no one was ever convicted or held in suspicion, and the mysterious caller was never found. Okay, getting into that story a little bit, there's nothing more scarier than to be a woman and for a man to stalk you. Like, it doesn't matter what type of stalkiness it is, it's just freaking scary. And I would be freaking spooked the hell out. And Dorothy, girl, rest in peace. But girl, I would have beat his ass. Okay? I got a toddler son waiting on me at home. But, rest in peace, Dorothy. I will help the police solve your murder. Now, another story that we're going to talk about is about the Girl Scout murder. This is story number 4. Okay, so in the summer of 1977, 3 young Girl Scouts staying at Oklahoma campsite were raped and murdered. The girls, Lori, Michelle, and Doris, were between the ages of 8 and 10. About 2 months before the murders, a camp counselor found a disturbing note in her belongings. The the corporate promised to murder 3 children at the camp. Knowing that young campers enjoy telling scary stories around the campfire, the camp counselor dismissed the threatening note as nothing more than a prank, a prank and decision she would later come to regret. Early in the morning of June 13, the girls' bodies were found in their sleeping bags out on the trail leading to the camp showers. The only evidence that their killer left behind was a red flashlight and a bloody footprint. The prime suspect in the Oklahoma Girl Scouts murders was Jean Leroy Hart, an escaped convict. Hart had been raised about a mile from the Camp Scout, and at the time of the murders, he was at large after escaping from prison, where he had done several time for burglary, kidnapping, and also rape. A local jury acquitted Hart of the crime, citing a lack of evidence. However, Oklahoma police consider the case solved. Till this day, no one knows if Jean Hart Leroy got away with murder, or if the true killer was someone else entirely. Either way, the girl's killer was never seen and never saw justice. Now, I heard about that story before, and it's like I never really understood, like the whole accusation of what was going on. But we're going to go into our last story here. Now, our last story is about the girl in the box. And I'm going to show a quick photo of her. This is what she looks like, if you guys can see that. Okay. So this is about the girl in the box. So 20-year-old Colleen Stan was on her very way to her friend's birthday in Northern California with her soon-to-be captor Cameron Hooker and wife Janice picked up the hitchhiker. Stan, who spent much of the next 7 years trapped in the box that let in no light, sound, or fresh air, convinced by the hookers that a mysterious and dangerous organization will kill her and her family if she did not comply. Under an agreement between Janice and Cameron, and eventually through a forcibly signed contract with Stan, the young woman was to be a sex slave for Cameron. Though no penetration actually occurred when Stan was let out of her box, where she spent up to 23 hours a day eating cold food scraps and using a bedpan. She was tortured and raped using various objects. Several years into captivity, a brainwashed Stan was allowed to visit her family once and even got a job. But when Cameron said he wanted Stan to be his second wife, the entire horrific situation fell apart. Stan eventually got on a bus and fled to her family, while Janice turned her husband in, receiving immunity for her full corroborations. Now, this story, I did get into it a couple months ago, and the way that the whole story is, which I'm going to re-explain it again, was this girl, she was like, I guess she was like walking, like she was walking to her friend's birthday party or something like that. And she was caught by this guy and this guy's wife. They literally kidnapped her. And I guess the wife, she was a little bit on the nice side, but she also started growing resentment towards Stan. Now Stan is the girl. And she would allow her husband to rape this girl with objects, rape her occasionally, a lot of times a day, and for you to be a woman and to let something like that happen, and not only being a woman, that being your husband, and you letting something like that happen just means that you're as ruthless as he is. So I guess the wife started to grow jealousy over how her husband would talk about Stan. Now, this is allegedly, and I read this off of the comments of the stories that I was just reading. And this is allegedly, like, this is like, I don't even know if it's true, but I'm gonna still say it. Don't come for me, okay? But supposedly the wife started to grow more and more hate for Stan. But then she felt bad for Stan at the same time. Because remember, Stan was very young when she was first caught. Now, I don't think it said how old she was. But in the picture, she literally looks like she was like at least 16 or 15 years old. Now, she stood there for, it said here, I believe it said she stood there for 23 years. Like, what? No. I'm sorry. She stood in a box for 23 hours a day. You know what 23 hours a day in a box must be like? Like, there's 24 hours in a whole day, and you spend 23 hours